unfortunately, there was a moment in the life of Peter Davison that we had to bid goodbye to the Sonic. The writers didn't like it. They felt it was too gimmicky, so they wrote it out of the show. But we get one of the best lines from Peter Davison ever of, "I feel as though you've just killed a very old friend." A moment for the song. And we're good. Moving on, who are the companions? The companion is anyone who travels with the Doctor. They basically are there to keep the Doctor level-headed, keep him coming on his travels. And the big thing is, if you're traveling through time and space, what's the point of seeing everything if you can't show anyone? You know, oh, that's fantastic, a diamond waterfall. I got to see it. Oh, now I have no one to tell. Well, let's get someone who I can tell and brag about too. Yes, this is fantastic. That's a companion for you. And they don't always have to be human or even organic. That's how you end up with a mechanical dog named K9, who's fantastic. K9 is fantastic. And then you realize that you are the mechanical dog in the case of Mickey. All right, and then along with the companions, there was this little task force. I told you I'd get back to them. UNIT, the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. They worked very closely with the Third Doctor, and they're a military task force of the UN working to protect and combat alien threats to planet Earth. And there was the Brigadier and all these fantastic people. Basically, they were there just as extra companions to the Doctor with a military sense. And they were the ones who were like, well, Doctor, you must do this. And he's like, no, that's militaristic, and I don't agree with that. So I'll go off behind your back and do something else, but it will work out exactly how we need to. And that's how he did it. And that was John Pertwee's life with UNIT. And they do come back. The Brigadier's daughter is now running UNIT. We saw that with the 11th Doctor, so they do show up in the new episodes and everything. They do have their place in time, but they really were just a very classic-driven character. Now, we're going to move on to notable species. And what we danced around this whole time is talking about who the Time Lords are. We've only talked about one, but there's a whole species of these guys who can regenerate and change their faces. Now, their home planet is Gallifrey in the constellation of Castor-Uranus. They are keepers of times and its laws throughout all of the universe. They basically were the first species to really ascend to the level of time travel and understanding this. And through that, they feel that they need to look over the laws of time and make sure nothing gets too explodey-woady or wibbly-wobbly. But they are one of the oldest species in the universe. And they do have a lot of cool little things to them, certain little mental abilities, such as telepathy and the ability to transfer memories. They can talk to each other. The Doctors have met before. There's been the 5 Doctors, 3 Doctors, 2 Doctors. They've all met through time and space for whatever reason. And they can actually talk to each other with mental telepathy. But the other thing they can do is they can go up to humans and bash their heads into their forehead, and suddenly, now they know something. That's the most great ability I've ever said. Hey, I don't like you. Headbutt! I was just transferring memories. But another key thing, and this is true, this is to help move along time and everything, is there's a difference between fixed points and points in flux. And as a Time Lord, they can see this. There are certain events in history that must remain stagnant. Pompeii will always erupt. Hitler will always rise and take control of the Third Reich. There must be these events, and they must happen, and a Time Lord cannot alter those events. But everything else is free game. So that's the Time Lord, and there is another Time Lord that we have talked about. He is the Master. He is very evil. Time Lord gone mad. And he's basically, his character is this. He's the yin to the yang of the Doctor. He is Moriarty to Holmes, and he is Joker to Batman. He is there. And I put that Joker into Batman because he never would kill the Doctor as much as he wants to. His goal in life is to destroy the Doctor and get rid of him. But he couldn't if he wanted to, because then he wouldn't have anyone to play with. But he's out there, he's universal conquest, and he's very, very evil and mad, and he's brilliant. It's fantastic to watch the Master work and try and understand his mental process, because it's like trying to understand Joker. You can't do it. You'll go mad trying to understand what he's doing. But it's very fun. He was the villain in the '96 movie. You've got John Sim, who played it with the 10th Doctor in The Sound of the Drums, where he hears that in his head repeatedly. That was a nice little thing they did. But yes, he's a fantastic villain. But now that we've talked about Time Lords and the Master, we must talk about the oldest villain of all time, coming from the second serial of William Hartnell, the Daleks. Their home planet is of Skaro, created as a result of a mutation from a civil nuclear war by the scientists of Davros. Mr. I have a glowing blue eye in front of my head. But basically what happened is there was this giant nuclear civil war, and it started to alter the people of Skaro, the one side that was fighting against them. So they had to put themselves in these mechanical suits, which are now the Daleks. And as they continued to mutate, Davros went, and he said, I'm going to mutate us until we no longer will mutate. And they became this tiny little blob of like jellyfishy thing inside of a metal suit. And they felt that they were the most perfect things in all the universe. And they have only one goal, and that is the complete and utter elimination of all life forms that are not Dalek. Yes, ma'am?
Back when we predicted that the Earth was going to end, I heard that supposedly it was the anniversary of when Daleks first started happening.
It would have been December 23rd. That would have been a very interesting thing. I never looked into the dates of that, and I haven't heard it. But that will be something I'll look into after this. But yes, the Daleks have only one goal, and that is the complete, utter elimination of any life form non-Dalek. And so they scream, exterminate! with their plunger of death. Tom Baker once said, I have never been so frightened of an upside-down garbage can with a little tiny half ball stuck on it and a plunger being pointed at me. But that's the Daleks. Now, they are complete and utter. The Time Lords have a policy of non-interference. They break that with the Daleks because they are that evil. So we end up with the Time Wars, and this is what I was talking about. This is where the Ninth Doctor is about to become the only Time Lord in all of existence. The last great Time Lord. There were two prior, but this one's the most important. Sometime between this, the 8th and the Ninth Doctor does regenerate, whether it's during the Time War or shortly thereafter. But the Time War pitted the normally non-interfering Time Lords versus the Daleks, and it was, what they did is they said, we need to end this. The Daleks have the ability to time travel, we have the ability to time travel, and we need to make sure that nothing can happen, that everything that happens from now in this war will be the ultimate end. You know, if we win, we win. If the Daleks win, the Daleks win, but nothing can change. So they time-locked the war. Nobody could travel back into time in the war. Everything that happened only moved forward. If you moved forward in time with your time machine, that was it. You were there. Whatever happened is now history. It cannot be changed. And that ended up being a very costly decision. Because in order to end the war, the Doctor was forced to burn all of Gallifrey, killing every Time Lord, and he had hoped every Dalek at the same time. Thus, he was the one who committed genocide against his own people and the Daleks, and became the loneliest man in all of the universe. This war single-handedly determined who the new Doctor is. And we never see it in the show. It's not even talked about in the books. It's hinted at, but you hear about it in the show, and you understand that this war, especially with the end of time, and I will not say anything about that because spoilers. Yeah, I had to say that something in here. But yes, this is hugely effective to this man. But there is another classic villain, almost as popular as the Daleks, and almost as important, the Cybermen. The only man who had a radiator stuck to his chest because he looked mechanical.
Funky pair of headphones.
Exactly. Funky indeed. Now, there is something interesting about the Cybermen. Their home planet was Mondus, but they have two origins. I like the first better. In the classic series, Mondus drifted out of orbit, and to survive, they basically enhanced their bodies to live in space because they were moving away from their planet. So they kept upgrading parts of their bodies until they were just basically mechanical, and stripped themselves of all emotion. Now, because of this, they kind of thought that, oh, we're the most perfect beings in the universe. And unlike the Daleks, who thought, we're perfect, everything else needs to die, their mentality is, oh, we're perfect, so we'll upgrade everyone else to us. Because it's the only way we can reproduce now, so in order to get more Cybermen, we need to create more Cybermen, and we need something to start with, so let's just turn everyone else. So this planet of Mondus that they then converted to basically a giant starship became the first Death Star.
Yes.
Moved throughout space, conquering worlds and turning them into other Cybermen homeworlds. But it ended up being that the Time Lords were able to defeat the Cybermen and kill them all. Until, in a parallel universe, on Earth, the Cybermen were created by a mad billionaire who wanted to basically create Earth's next logical evolutionary step. And so we ended up with the Cybermen again from a parallel universe invading our universe. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, figure that one out. And of course, like the Daleks with exterminate, they have a phrase, and it's called delete. Because they're emotionless, so you have to drink. Yeah, control alt delete, I like that. Because you have to drain yourself of all things. Go delete, keep a straight face, cake. And there is a great scene when the Daleks and the Cybermen meet because they think they are the greatest of all species. And the Cybermen, there's like 5 or 6 of them facing off against 3 Daleks. And he goes, you would stop the Cybermen army with only 3 Daleks. We would crush the Cybermen army with only 1 Dalek. They're smack-talking each other. It's great! Oh, best nerd moment in history.
Oh no!
Oh, I had to. We've talked about 2 of the classic villains. Now we must talk about 2 of the new villains. And the first is the Weeping Angels. It's just a harmless statue. What are you concerned about? Oh yeah, if you turn away and if you blink, they move. Now their home planet is unknown, and they're as old as the universe. Nobody really knows, where they came from, but they just existed. And they feed off potential life streams. Basically what this means is, I go up to you, sir, and I touch you. And I've now sent you back in time, let's say 30 years. You'll die before you get back to your life stream now, and I'm going to live off all of that potential energy that you could have had, all of that life that you could have. Yes, that's tasty to me. That's how they survive. They're hunters. They're the only species to kill you nicely. Because you do get to live out your life, just not the way you want it. And all your family is gone, and now you're a lonely person who has to make a completely new life for himself, and will never know what happened to him in the future. So, they do have this nice little greatest self-defense mechanism, and that's what we've talked about a little bit. It's called the quantum lock. Basically, I am a stone statue as long as you stare at me. The moment you blink, the moment you look away, the moment you turn your back, I can move freely. But if you look at them, then they're stone again. It's a fact of their biology. They cannot avoid it. It happens. It's the only thing they can do. So, that's how they survive, because you can't kill a stone statue.
So they took Schrodinger's cat and made it an angel.
Yes, they did.
Right.
It is both alive and dead at the same time. But there is a nice little trick, and this is how they reproduce. Because every species, if there were just 10 Weeping Angel stone statues, well, I'm just going to go up and smash that statue to death with a hammer. Well, then there'd be no more angels. So how do they reproduce? Well, it's very simple. Anything that holds the image of an angel is itself an angel. So I hope you've been looking at this picture, because if we look away, it will move and kill us. So I'm just going to hit this button really, really fast. And we're going to talk about the last of the species. The silence. Aren't they just, they are so pretty. That is the word I was looking for, and I mean it. Very, very pretty. The silence. Home planet is Earth. Their home planet is here since the time of fire. They've been around as long as we have. They're a parasite species. They basically live off of us. Because what they do is, they're in the background because of their little ability. Like the Weeping Angels, they have a cool ability. You only remember them as you're looking at them. So for now, I'm going to use you as an example. You're a silence. Oh, hey, I see you. You're talking. Hey, how's it going on? Who was I talking to? Oh, hey, how are you doing? I haven't seen you ever. Are you new here? Oh, hey, who was I talking to again? I have no idea. Oh, hey. That's what happens all the time. So, you have this nice little defense mechanism is you can only remember us as you're looking at it. But they also have a second thing called this innate ability of post-hypnotic suggestion. As you're looking at them, if they say something to you, you say, I want you to go to the moon. And then they look away and, who was I talking to? Why do I have this sudden urge to go to the moon? Let's go to the moon, guys. That's what they did. They evolved our species to meet their needs. They've been around as long as we have, guiding humanity up until the moon race. And I will not say any more about them because they are instrumental in the Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, which is not a good 2-part to start with. But once you're into Who, you will be like me, and within 15 minutes of watching it go, what is going on? How did this happen? No! Curse Stephen Moffat.